Welcome, friends, to the Reality of Health podcast. This will not be an episode that tells you how good cannabis is for you. I know you've heard that. This is going to be a different perspective than maybe what you've been hearing for the last many years. And of course, this is my opinion. This is not advice. Here's my disclaimer. If you're using cannabis under supervision from either a doctor or a psychiatrist, and they actually know what they're doing, I have no problem with that. If you're using it because you think it's healthy, then I definitely have a problem with that. It has just as many side effects as it has positive effects. Even those positive effects may not be all that good, or what you think they are. Some are even deadly. This is not the same stuff they smoked back in the day. You would think that being that it's so much stronger than it used to be, it would be more regulated. That's not the way it is. Very little regulation. The stuff they grew decades ago was between 2 to 4% THC. That is not what most people are consuming today. They're consuming highly potent distillates and vaping pens and resins, waxes and dabs, and something called shatter. These are just creations meant to drive addiction because it sets off dopamine avalanches in your brain. Some of these are 99% THC. That potency is not for chilling out. That is for straight out obliteration. And no, I am not anti-cannabis. I'm actually pro-cannabis because it's totally awesome in the homeopathic form, which can work sometimes better than ingesting the plant. You gotta know what you're doing, or else you can really get messed up. Sorry, but now it's gonna get dark, but this is reality. This is pretty much the reason for this episode, although we're gonna get into other things. Parents, teenagers, this is for you. The National Institute of Drug Abuse has reported that 14% of 8th graders, 33% of 10th graders, 44% of 12th graders, 38% of full-time college students, and 41% of non-full-time college students who are ages 19 to 22 use all the products containing THC. That's all of them on the market I just mentioned. This is the highest level in 3 decades. I will get into why it's not good for you, but first, let me say that the use of cannabis in the young people, and even older people, because of these high concentrations, actually has created an epidemic of psychotic disorders, one of those being suicide. Most people don't know that. And around 30% of marijuana users develop a marijuana use disorder. Many people don't know that 15% of adolescents using marijuana, specifically the high THC stuff found in those vape pens and other products, end up with some sort of psychosis or serious mental health issue. And by the way, this is from poorly kept records. Experts actually believe the numbers are much higher. So for younger people, it's particularly harmful to your brain and also makes you more dependent for the rest of your life. Then it interferes with educational and vocational training. It leads to long-term consequences in your biological critical development periods, causes persistent long-term alterations in the brain structure and the brain function. That is much more serious a situation than getting into it in adulthood because it alters the brain's trajectory of development. There are endless studies on the growing prevalence of the psychosis, which is up to 50% of the cases. Then they end up going to emergency departments, and then they end up progressing to schizophrenia. So not only are young people committing suicide at a rate unheard of by using all this THC, but they also claim of hearing voices and seeing ghosts. They're unable to go to sleep, and when they do, it ends up being for only a few minutes, and then they got to take another hit in order to go back to sleep for just a few more minutes. Paranoia is actually killing them. This is a real problem, and no one is talking about it. There are books written from parents telling the world how horrible this is and what's happened to their child. These parents had no idea their children were using these products. When these children and teenagers try and get help, the school or the drug advisors do nothing to help them. They tell them to slow down and don't smoke so much. Yes, that's actually what's happening. And now with all the regulations of schools and teachers and counselors can't tell parents anything about what's going on in their child's life, do you really think that that's a good thing? Ask all the parents who wish they knew their kids had a drug problem. It's the #1 drug used in the world. And because it's so ubiquitous, these young people think it's okay. And then, are they seeing you do it? They get hooked on extremely high levels of THC from these edibles and resins. In fact, many of these products don't have marijuana flower even in the final product. Instead, these cannabis plants are genetically engineered. They're highly processed. Then they extract the THC with solvents and chemicals in order to super concentrate them. Marijuana cannabis industry is absolutely massive, multi-billion-dollar industry. Who's profiting besides the growers and the sellers? I think we know who, and that word starts with the letter G and ends with a T. We have a serious suicide problem and psychosis problem for young people. Adults can somewhat handle it, but the young people can't. Please, if you need help, reach out to anyone. Reach out to me. Call your doctor. Tell your parents. Tell your best friend. Go online to a help center. There are ways to get off of it. There are ways to cleanse and heal you and your body. You are not alone. If you have any thoughts of suicide, then please do not hesitate to contact me or anyone else you have in your life. It is the marijuana giving you these thoughts. There is nothing wrong with you. It is the marijuana that is destroying your life. If you know someone who might be experiencing these symptoms from this drug, then I say be bold and ask them or confront them. When it is too late to help or save them, then it is too late. Then, of course, there's always the massive quantities of pesticides and fungicides and insecticides, all kinds of heavy metals and banned chemicals and God knows what else in these products. So not only are you getting THC that completely ruins you, you're also getting a heavy dose of chemicals, metals, pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, aluminum, tin, nickel. Wow, it just goes on and on and on. Now, for why I'm against it for recreational and most medical. Cannabis is known in agriculture to be a pest repellent, a pesticide. Deters insects, kills them, kills mites, nematodes. No, that's not a type of frog. Nematode, Nematodes. Kills fungus and all those weed-type plants. No, not that one. All the other stuff. There's 120 different cannabinoids. THC is only one form. They are neurotoxic and they're antipathogenic, which means they kill bacteria, fungus, and insects. Ready for the side effects? This is going to get deep, so hang in there. It changes the signal conductivity of your central nervous system. I will explain why in a little bit. It also affects your peripheral system, which can cause things like hyperemias, which is intractable vomiting during pregnancy, impaired coordination, impaired performance, anxiety, suicidal tendencies, suicide, psychotic symptoms, known as psychosis, mood disorders, withdrawal symptoms. It can exacerbate psychotic disorders, neurocognitive impairment, cardiovascular issues, neurological issues, respiratory issues, cerebral vascular issues like strokes, by the way, peripheral vascular diseases, pneumothorax, that's air leaking into the space between the lungs and the chest wall, pneumomediastinum, which is another air in the chest issue, pneumopericardium, a condition that affects the sac around the heart, bullous lung disease, increased risk of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, desquamated interstitial pneumonia, memory issues, attention deficiency, structural and functional changes in the brain, and a whole host of organ issues. Yay! Don't we want to use this stuff now? Has anybody told you about this? Oh, no, that's right. All they push is how good for you it is. Sorry for the sarcasm, but this is a serious topic when it is literally killing young people. Now, cannabinoids, they love fat. So it likes to store itself in your fat tissue, in your liver, in your lungs, and your spleen. Then it makes you hungry, increases your mortality. That means it kills you earlier, stunts your growth, makes you gain weight, because we all know why, makes you eat junk food. ER doctors see all kinds of issues from heavy users of marijuana, THC, cannabis. They actually see people who've consumed these products that have poisons in them, or they're moldy, or they got some kind of chemical alteration, or other things too, they say. And of course, that's not only complicating the issue, because it's harder to diagnose. They come in with symptoms like vomiting, anxiety, heart issues, or literally just being out of it. You may ask yourself, why would you vomit while consuming marijuana? Well, if you get too much at any one time or too much over a long period of time, the body knows that's a poison, so it's gonna purge. When you're a heavy user every day and you chronically vomit, well, guess what? Now you know why. I'm not going to get into the endocannabinoid system because I don't believe there are receptor sites on cells, therefore that system doesn't exist. So we're not going to talk about that. But I will say, tissues let substances in and out. The healthier your tissue, the better it knows what to let in. When your tissue is toxic or in ill health, many poisons can pass through and damage it. So how come it causes all those things? It's simple. Poisons disrupt electrical flow in your body by destroying your structured water. Oh, here he goes again with the whole water thing. I know. It's my favorite subject. What can I say? Well, that and about 10 other things, but we'll move on. Your entire central nervous system runs by water and electricity. Cannabinoids are plant poisons. They are insecticides, fungicides, bactericides, herbicides. They destroy your nervous system like the chemicals we use to kill bugs, spiders and weeds and mold and mice. And apparently now the planet. Your body can handle a little bit, and eventually the concentrations start to get higher and you start to have problems. Eric, but what about the good things that it does? You think there are good things? I say they stop the healing process of the body or change the processes of your body that your body wants to use in order to clean itself out or make itself better or regenerate or anything else it wants to do. So of course it looks like your symptoms went away. But did they? Not saying you can't use it, but I'm saying you should use it under supervision by somebody who knows how to use it properly. When you use it recreationally, you can destroy your body in all areas because all areas require water and electricity. And you're taking a very serious poison, thinking it's good for you. But I heard it's good for things like dementia or pain or any number of things. Yeah, it can seem like that. It's helping those things. The next thing you know, though, you're suicidal. You hear people talking to you that aren't there. You see ghosts. You gained a lot of weight because you can't stop eating. You start to lose sensitivity all throughout your body because the toxin is destroying you. You ever seen a bug that gets hit with insecticide? It does all kinds of weird things. And of course, a whole host of other things I've already listed. It makes you make poor decisions. There's substantial evidence that using THC or cannabis adversely affects your executive functions like tasks of planning or reasoning, problem solving, your performance. It affects your inhibition control. It alters your sensitivity to reward and punishment, and an increased risk-taking behavior. One of the most major side effects is it greatly affects your memory. Well, I guess if you don't want to remember stuff, that could be a little helpful. Now for what I believe is good. The homeopathic use of cannabis. It's actually pretty awesome. Especially if you're getting off the use of cannabis, it can almost fix you. Many people have been fixed using it. If you've never used cannabis, then homeopathic remedy can be helpful for many things like panic attacks and anxiety and fearfulness, paranoia of all kinds, disorientation or confusion, or if you have what's called theorizing, which means that you can't stop thinking you've got like a million ideas, you just can't turn it off. Well, sort of like me. If you need to calm down because you're too exhilarated or excited, if you need to stop something called causeless laughter. Who wouldn't want that? You just laugh for no cause whatsoever. All kinds of delusions, lack of any sense of identity. It can help you control anger and rage, and it's excellent for children with behavioral disorders. Homeopathics do the opposite of the bad things you experience in your life. Of course, you want to try it? Then you should hook up with a homeopathic physician because they know how to use those remedies for your personality and for who you are and your health history. Other than homeopathic remedies, there is no reason to use this stuff unless you're under supervision of a professional. All right, please take care of yourselves. There are more dangers out there than you might realize, and many of them come in the form of good. Thank you for listening.